Alrighty, good morning, everyone. So excited to have you all here for our diabetes cooking club. Learn this skill to grill. My name is Emily Johnston. I'm a health educator with Bronson's Community Health Advancement Team, and I'm going to be your facilitator today. So, and Kim House is going to be our diabetes educator today, and Tina Wahardo is going to be our cooking demo and health educator today. So, learn the skill to grill. This class will last from about 9 a.m. till about 10 a.m. Really glad you're here. We do use closed captioning provided by Zoom. A lot of the times this is not 100% accurate. If you're confused by any words or terms, type your questions in the chat and we'll get that question answered for you. The controls in Zoom are usually at the bottom or the top of the screen. If you're not seeing them, just give your mouse a wiggle and the control bar should pop up. We do ask that you stay muted unless you're talking to reduce some of our background noise. When you're muted, the microphone mute button will have a line through it. And we'd love to see your face. So feel free to put your video on or keep it off, whatever you're comfortable with. And again, this information that you hear today is intended as general health information, some tips and tricks, and this should not be used as a substitute for medical care or advice from your provider. So if you have any medical questions, always consult your physician or clinician. So with that, our agenda today, we're going to be talking about grilled chicken burgers. We're going to be talking about alternatives on the grill. We're going to do a veggie and fruit kebab recipe. We're going to talk about the benefits and risks to the grilling method, and we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. So with that, we will get right into our grilled chicken burgers.
Right. Yes, thank you, Emily. Thank you, Kim, for being here and participating in our Diabetes Cooking Club and providing our education here in a little bit. We are going to go ahead and get started with our chicken burgers. And we are going to spend some time in the education portion of today's class just talking about alternatives to some of the things that we're cooking today, some of the things that maybe you would typically cook on the grill for a cookout, whether it be for your own family, your friends, a cookout with a larger group. We are offering some healthier alternatives, right? Still grilling a burger, but instead of like a fattier type of hamburger with saturated fat, we're providing that alternative like a grilled chicken burger. And so today's chicken burger is going to be very lean. There's not going to be a lot of extra added fats to it. It's also quite a low sodium option too. And so you can see from the recipe that got emailed out a couple of days ago and this morning, and you see on your screen, we're keeping it quite simple. We're going to do our lean ground chicken. If you don't have chicken, you can definitely do a beef and with these same type of ingredients if you prefer that, or you can just go like a 93% lean, 97% lean ground beef. You can also do ground turkey as well. So just know that this is a versatile recipe, and we're going to really add in a lot of flavor using sun-dried tomatoes, onions, fresh herbs, garlic. We're not going to add any extra salt. We're getting a little salt or sodium from those sun-dried tomatoes. So let's go ahead and get started on our burger. And so you see that I am in my kitchen. I am not on my back deck today, grilling with my charcoal grill. We thought the logistics of that might be a little challenging. So we're here in my kitchen. I am using a cast iron grill pan. So I've got it preheating back here. I'm aiming for like a medium type of heat on my cast iron pan to grill these burgers today. I've got my mixing bowl, I've got some ground chicken, and I've already got my other ingredients already pre-portioned and ready to mix into my ground chicken burger recipe here. We're gonna make about 4 patties. So about 4 chicken burgers is the serving size of this grilled chicken burger recipe. And so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm very curious because I had never used ground chicken for a burger before. So while I'm throwing this in the mixing bowl, I'd like to hear from you all. Type it in the chat, unmute if you would like to share. Have you ever had a ground chicken burger before? I've done ground turkey, I've done beef, I've done mushrooms and black beans, but I've never done a ground chicken. I would like to hear from you. Have you guys done this before? And while you guys are answering, I'm just throwing that ground chicken into my mixing bowl. Again, we're having to really add in quite a bit of flavor because ground chicken itself is kind of bland. And so I'm seeing a no in the chat. Nobody's used the ground chicken before. Never. Wonderful. Never used the chicken before. Okay, well then hopefully this will inspire you all to use ground chicken. It wasn't the easiest thing to find. It was out of stock in a couple of stores, but I was eventually able to find it at Walmart yesterday. And so this is a lean ground chicken. We're about 93, 95% lean. So it's got that very low saturated fat, just like you would find in a ground turkey if you are more comfortable or used to that type of a ground burger recipe. So we've got our ground chicken. Now we're adding our flavor and our moisture, right? Since we don't have a lot of fat in this recipe, we are adding moisture in a bit of a different way. So it's not a very dried out burger. I've got a 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. You can get these sun-dried tomatoes in water or oil. Today I am using the version in oil. They usually come in like a longer strip. If you've ever used sun-dried tomatoes before, they're jarred. And I cut them up into just smaller pieces. So I had more consistent bites of sun-dried tomato in my ground chicken recipe. And then I'm also adding some diced onion. You can use whatever onion you like. Today I am using a yellow onion. If you prefer white, that is totally fine as well. And I'm adding about a 1/4 cup of diced white or yellow onion to that as well. And then now we get into the fresh herbs and flavor and seasonings. If you don't have fresh of these herbs, that's okay. You can always use dried as well if that's what you have on hand. You don't want to spend the extra money. Sometimes fresh herbs get a little pricey when you already maybe have them in your pantry, and that is okay. So I am also adding in a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh basil. Yum. That is going to pair very deliciously with my sun-dried tomatoes. I'm also adding a 1/4 cup of fresh parsley. Again, if you don't have fresh, that's okay. You can do dried. You might add just a little bit more dried than fresh in comparison. And then we've got about 4 cloves of minced garlic going in. Oh my goodness, those flavors are reminding me of those recipes that we're always trying to highlight that are a little bit more Mediterranean inspired, right? Fresh herbs and spices, lean proteins. We've got everything already in there. I already added some black pepper too. You can put that in there if you want to. You don't have to, but I'm not adding any extra sodium to the recipe. So that is all we need to do. Added our ingredients, our flavors to our ground chicken. And now with my gloves on, I am just mixing this up quite well and uniformly so I can get all of those flavors in each one of my grilled chicken patties. So give me a moment here to do that. And then Emily, did anybody say yes to having grilled chicken before?
No, I would say most of us have never had a grilled chicken burger before. So I think this will be a new recipe for everyone and something new to try.
Perfect. And I think what you're going to see from a lot of our recipes today, and Kim is going to hit on this too, is that we're really trying to add a lot of color to our recipes. There is a reason for that. Color equals antioxidants, and Kim's going to hit on that. And so even though we're growing this chicken burger, we also have added color, right? We've got the red from the tomato, we've got the green from the basil and the parsley. And then we've got those beautiful white onions in there too. So again, we're forming about 4 patties. This does not look dry. This is feeling very nice and kind of moist and sticky. We're making 4 patties today. I'm just going to throw those onto my grill. Perfect. Let me get another one started here. They smell delicious. All those fresh herbs.
Need that smell-o-vision.
Yep. All right. So now that these are going to go onto the grill, they're going to cook, really depending upon what heat you have your grill set at. Sometimes I feel if you're using charcoal, it's a little bit harder to regulate that heat. And so you're just kind of moving it into different areas, your patties, for a higher heat over the charcoal grill, lowering that heat kind of off of the charcoal grill. If you're doing gas, you have a little bit more control. And so the time that you spend grilling on each side is really going to vary depending upon how high you have your heat. But at about a medium heat, we're aiming for probably a good 4 minutes per side on these chicken burgers. And so that is what I'm going to aim for here. Get my last burger patty on. If you're not feeling so comfortable and knowing when your patties are going to be done, use your meat thermometer. So use your digital meat thermometer, just your regular meat thermometer too. And what you're aiming for is to get the internal cooking temperature to about 165 degrees. And then your ground chicken burger will be done. So I'm going to now pass it over to Kim to work on some of our education for today's program. And then I'll show you guys these complete grilled patties in a little bit.
Thanks, Tina. So as Tina was saying, she mentioned a few times that, and you have the recipes from the email, and you noticed there was some sodium noted in that nutrient analysis at the bottom. And she mentioned a few times that she used it, in the oil. One quick tip you can do to rid of half the sodium in a canned product, that if you're bothered by the milligrams of sodium in this recipe, is you can go ahead and rinse the product. Put those sun-dried tomatoes in a colander and rinse. So just kind of a little quick tip. If you notice that on that recipe, that is the only source of sodium in this product. Otherwise, there are so many good flavors and colors. So let's look at that. So does this grilled chicken burger recipe meet the criteria for a balanced meal? So like Emily had introduced and Tina mentioned, I'm a certified diabetes educator. So I always look at, for our blood sugars in patients with diabetes, do we have a balanced meal ahead of us? So when I look at that, I look at all of the different nutrients. And for that, meaning the carbohydrates, the protein nutrients, the fat, and the non-starchy vegetables. So the colorful part of this meal, and really I left out really the good flavorful, but also colorful, is that, basil, especially that just enhances that sun-dried tomato and the garlic. But if you look at the bottom here, it says non-starchy vegetables, those sun-dried tomatoes and those onions, that provides us something, some color, some good vitamins and minerals without disturbing our blood sugars. When you go back up to the top, really the only source of carbohydrates is those non-starchy vegetables. It's so minimal. In this recipe, there is only 6 grams of carbohydrate for a patty. It's really so low of a number. So really the non-starchy vegetable carbohydrate. We also have good protein, and it's good lean protein. There's barely any fat. It's a 93% lean. So really that's the only source of fat. We're not adding any oils to this. So it's a lean, low carbohydrate product with recipe with good color and our vegetables where we can make it count. So it's a great, great recipe. So I want to give this a try. I honestly have never had a chicken burger before, and I really have never put these mixture of vegetables and seasonings in a burger before. So I love this. Okay, so in the chat, if you want to put in there, what do you enjoy grilling? Because it can be so many different things. So throw that in the chat while I kind of continue on my journey here about alternatives on the grill. So as Emily had ran through the agenda, she mentioned alternatives. And Tina said, there are things to that heavy meats and those carbohydrate sides. So studies show that Americans tend to grill high-fat meats and pair those same meats with carb-heavy sides. So kind of your typical fried chicken or high-fat meat with like a potato salad or macaroni and cheese. Additionally, a person with diabetes is 2 times more likely to develop a heart disease than one without. So what we're looking at is alternatives. Choosing alternatives to these high-fat meats and these carb-heavy sides is crucial to helping our diabetes, controlling our blood sugars, maintaining our heart health, and enjoying the grill. High-fat meats, what we'll find typically is what Tina had mentioned as well is more of your saturated fat and your cholesterol. So those really types of fats in protein that will, find themselves in our blood vessels and sticky in our arteries and cause our cholesterol to rise and our other numbers that we watch as someone with diabetes. And so we find that more often in our high-fat meats. We also will find more sodium. Like I said, we pair those high-fat meats typically with a carb-heavy side. And when we think about that, a lot of those things might have sugars, especially added sugars. They're going to be lots of starches in those and perhaps even sodium. So we're going to look at some alternatives here. On the left, some of your common sort of high-fat meat grilling items. And on your right, maybe some of those alternatives that we might try that could, be lower in saturated fat, lower in cholesterol, and perhaps lower in sodium. So beef hamburger. So there's all sorts of types of beef that we can use to make a hamburger patty. So really kind of looking at that percentage, as Tina was mentioning, really finding that 93 or 97% beef, or perhaps a turkey or chicken, like we said today, but like corned beef, chorizo, ribeye, bacon, hot dogs. So our pork products are so high in sodium and they can be so high in fat. Frying anything and putting that on the grill adds in so much added fat, whether it be fish, whether it be our chicken, any skin on meat adds in that extra fat, cholesterol, especially that saturated fat. So we lose the benefit of that protein. Italian sausages, spare ribs, you name it. Those are grillable items that tend to be higher fat, higher sodium. And so looking at our alternatives, skinless chicken breast. We've got our ground chicken, that's 93% that Tina found at Walmart. Your 90%, your 93%, your 97% beef, your salmon, your cod. Remember, these should be more fresh going on the grill than fried. We actually grilled salmon last night, so we did a light marinade and it was fresh. We just picked it up last night and just put it on some foil. It was beautiful. It tasted great, and we paired it with green beans. We've made it pretty simple. Some will put some game on the grill, lamb chops, bean and veggie burgers. So numerous options that are much more heart healthy, that won't disturb our blood sugars, and could be a lower sodium option. So those are some high fat meat alternatives. Let's look at those carb heavy sides and the alternatives. Boy, there are so many. And you think about potlucks, you think about just all the summer events in this warm weather. Corn muffins, fruit salad, ramen noodle salad, chicken Caesar, bow tie pasta, Snicker salad, baked beans, corn on the cob, corn fritters, mashed potatoes, you name it. Is anybody getting hungry right now? You think about those, and most of those are corn-based, potato-based, pasta-based, right? Carb heavy, it could be added sugars, added starches, and we probably will find ourselves with some sodium in there. And some of these are actually added fat, so it could be extra fat too, if they're fried. On the right-hand side, and we're going to introduce you guys to a couple of cool recipes. That's so exciting and so versatile. Veggie kebabs, just mind-blowing, can go in any colorful which way, which we'll talk about. Quinoa black bean salad, coleslaw made with Greek yogurt, so we can modify that. Spinach salad with like a vinaigrette, guacamole, that avocado, heart healthy. Green beans, asparagus, fruit kebabs, you name it. It could really go real well and really keep your blood sugars in control, be heart healthy, and still enjoy that nice warm weather grilling event. So, did anybody, Emily, say what they enjoy grilling?
Got a recipe from the Heart Association for a marinated flank steak.
Ooh, I love when people share stuff.
Sounds good.
Yes, yes. All right. So, like I said, we're going to introduce you to a couple of kebab recipes, and this is our vegetable kebab that Tina, are we ready? If I'll talk on this one a minute, give her a second. Are you good?
Yeah, go ahead and talk through it.
Okay. So the kebab recipe, as you notice, the nutrition facts there along the bottom, low in saturated fat, very low in sodium. Carbohydrates are very minimal. And actually with vegetables, we don't find too much protein, but that's okay because this could be paired with a delicious lean protein. Great fiber, a good source of fiber. So we'll let her take it away, I think, and I'll come back to you.
Yes, so we've got our grilled chicken burgers all put together and prepared. We got some good grill marks on our chicken burger. So I'm pretty happy with that, considering we're grilling inside and I don't have that charcoal grill going. But we've got our grilled chicken burgers ready. Now, you can do this in a couple of different ways. Once you have that grilled chicken burger prepared, you can obviously prepare it as a classic burger. Using buns if you wanted to. I started using those Carb Smart buns. So it has more fiber in them. So that's always an option. You could always wrap this up in a lettuce leaf. Today's recipe, when I serve it at the end, we're just going to serve it with a dollop of guacamole. And so it's going to just kind of be like this open face type of burger patty that we're going to use the guacamole as a dip and another heart healthy fat to pair with our grilled chicken burger today. So we're just setting that off to the side, and then we'll bring it back once our kebabs are done. So Kim introduced us to our grilled veggie kebabs. And veggie kebabs, as she said, are versatile. You can use any type of vegetable that you have available in your refrigerator. You can put a combination of different vegetables together based upon your personal preferences, and also based upon seasonality. What's in season? When we were kind of looking through our recipe, I think typically those kebabs will have some form of a summer squash on them, maybe a yellow squash or a zucchini, along with like your onions and bell peppers. But we said, what's kind of still in the season right now that could be green, that could be substituted for a zucchini, which we're kind of waiting a little bit later into the season for those to be ready. And so we are going to actually use some asparagus on our kebab today. So what we have done for our kebab recipe, because this is a recipe that you're going to want to marinate. Marinating is a good way to add a lot of flavor without adding, again, a lot of that sodium, keeping in mind that heart health is very important when we are living with diabetes as well. And so what we have right here in our mixing bowl is we have good sized chunks of bell pepper. You can use any color that you wanted to, but because we were trying to increase the variety of different colors, I am using a yellow bell pepper and a good chunks. I would say I probably got about, I don't know, maybe 10 good sized chunks out of one bell pepper. So that's about the size that you're looking for your kebab. We're using portobello mushrooms. You can buy them pre-sliced if you want to for the sake and ease of your kebab. I got the large portobello caps from the grocery store, just a big cap. And I probably diced that into, I don't know, probably at least a good 8 to 10 good sized chunks of mushroom. Again, we want these pieces to be hearty enough that they're not going to fall apart on your grill. And have enough surface area to get that nice grill mark to it. We then have added some good red onion chunks to the recipe. We've got our asparagus, yes, and then we're also adding in some grape tomatoes on our kebabs too. Now our marinade, it's been marinating for probably a good about an hour and a half or so, if not a little bit longer at this point. With any marinade, of course, you're going to want to give it at least 30 minutes in the refrigerator to meld those flavors together. But again, you could prep this the night before or in the morning if you're having your grill out in the afternoon and marinate it for, at least 8 hours too in the refrigerator. That's really just going to impart even more flavor to your kebab recipe. Our marinade is simply olive oil and balsamic vinegar with some fresh herbs. So for this recipe, we've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil already drizzled in here that's acting as the marinade, with 2 teaspoons of a balsamic vinegar, and then rosemary. You can use fresh, you can use dried rosemary. I have dried rosemary on hand, so I'm actually using rosemary today. Again, you're seeing that we are doing a lot of different colors with these recipes. That is one of the points that we are trying to make today. And again, Kim still is going to talk about that in a little bit. So with any kebab, we are alternating what we are sticking on these skewers. So I'm going to go ahead and start with some purple red onion. We've got our our portobello mushroom. Let's throw a tomato on there. And then while I'm doing this, why don't you all let me know, what do you guys like to throw on your veggie kebabs? What combination of vegetables do you like to put together? I'd love to hear that. What do you like to do, Kim?
We love sweet onions. We love all peppers. We haven't done asparagus yet. So how do you spear that?
Well, so I'm gonna spear it. I am actually gonna spear it kind of sideways, right? Not lengthwise. Okay. And the reason why I'm doing that is because of the size of these chunks. Sure. At least I'm gonna get some grill mark on the side, sure. More likely than the whole asparagus spear as well. So not your typical vegetable, I suppose, that you would put on a kebab, but yep. It doesn't have to be typical, yep. Right? It's still going to get that marinade. It's still going to get that flavor, and it's going to act as some variation in your texture, yep. Right? You're going to get some that are grilled and a little bit more tender, and then you're going to get some veggies that end up just being a little bit crunchier. because maybe they didn't hit the grill as well as the other vegetables, and that's okay.
And I would actually have a some, you know, mention a tip that I would keep your starchy type vegetables you would skewer like corn, potatoes on a separate skewer because those are going to cook perhaps a little bit differently and longer. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those are going to cook. Those non-starchy vegetables are going to cook more evenly than your starchy. So those are great.
That's a
Beautiful.
really good point that you make. Yes. Putting your non-starchy vegetables on separate kebabs in comparison to any starchy vegetable that you
Yep.
might do because of different cooking
Cook-
times.
mm,
You know, I kind of feel the same way about veggies and meat on the
Yes.
same kebab. I
Yes.
always try to do those
Yep.
separately because of the
Yep.
different cooking times for meat over veggies. So that is your veggie kebab. Absolutely beautiful. I can see the rainbow. I hope that you guys can too. I'm going to go ahead and stick that on my grill pan in the back. We're going to rotate it every so often, again, trying to get that even consistency and grill marks on that veggie kebab. And we'll
They're
see.
saying in the
We'll probably do a good, 8 to 10 minutes, rotating every couple of minutes on that kebab. So that is your veggie kebab. What did everybody answer? What do they like to do on their kebab?
no answers on other veggies, but people think your kebab looks wonderful. That rainbow of colors on there. I definitely want to try putting mushrooms on my kebabs. We usually stick to that typical like zucchini and peppers. So adding in different veggies, is a great idea. It looks beautiful.
I love a grilled mushroom.
Mhm.
Yes.
People like
Mild
mild.
veggies to avoid any reflux issues I see in the chat too. So yeah, maybe you're not using like a tomato, or maybe you're going to use more of a mild onion rather than a red onion. Again, that's the nice thing about kebabs. They're so versatile. And the important part here is that it's an alternative to the things that Kim was talking about that we typically bring to a potluck, which would be like potato salad, a little heavier, more carbohydrates. This is a lower carbohydrate, more blood sugar friendly option. Now, the next kebab, you guys, fruit kebab. Who has ever done fruit kebabs on the grill before? I'll let you guys answer that real quick.
This I'm excited about. Honey and cinnamon's got to go good on just about any fruit. And this versatility is going to be, we couldn't decide which fruit would be better for this.
Some
Oh,
people have had fruit kebabs before and they really liked them when they had them. I haven't had a kebab before, but I've had grilled fruit and it was really delicious. So I'm excited about this.
grilled peaches with a little bit of vanilla ice cream. Done that. I've done that. Yep. Yep. All right. Well, I'm getting beautiful grill marks on my veggie kebab back here. So we're going to keep that going while we now string together our fruit kebab today. And so if you're looking at the recipe, you see that we are doing a combination of strawberries, kiwis, and bananas on our kebab today. Emily is probably pulling up that recipe for you guys to take a look at right now. Again, you don't like this combination, that's okay. Don't like kiwi, that's all right. Throw in pineapple instead. Again, our goal here was to get as many colors as possible, red, yellow, and green from our kebabs. And then we're going to grill them. And then we're just going to drizzle the top, yes, with a little bit of sugar. We're going to do honey, lemon juice, and then we're going to add in some seasoning with some ground cinnamon. And that's just going to be a drizzle on top of our finished fruit kebabs. Again, we're using this and we're proposing this fruit kebab recipe as a dessert option. So let's go ahead and put together our glaze to get us started. And so if you're looking at the recipe, We're starting with the glaze, which is going to be honey, lemon juice, and that cinnamon. We're just gonna put in a separate bowl. The recipe says a microwavable bowl. And the reason why the recipe says is that sometimes your honey can get a little thick. And so if you want it to be like good and drizzly, you might want to just kind of warm this up in the microwave a little bit before you put it on and drizzle it over top your fruit. So that is why it talks about a microwavable bowl. Before I put my kebabs together, let me turn these veggies real quick.
You could really do whatever fruit is in season or what's in your fridge.
Yep. All right, perfect. So we've got about a teaspoon or so of lemon juice. I'm going to use some fresh lemon, a teaspoon here. If you've got lemon juice in the refrigerator on hand, obviously go ahead and use that instead. We're going to then add a quarter cup of honey. My honey has been sitting out in room temperature and it is warm in here, so I do not need to put this in the microwave. It is good and drizzly. And so we're doing a quarter cup of this drizzle, this glaze, this honey. Again, I think with this glaze for over these fruit kebabs, if you are using a different type of sweetener and not honey, maybe you're using agave nectar. Somebody in one of my other classes was just talking about how they are using, what was it? Date syrup. Date syrup. So again, a little bit of a different flavor maybe, but if you're using a different sweetener, again, you can use this glaze or make this glaze with another option too. And then we're going to add about a quarter teaspoon of some ground cinnamon because cinnamon pairs so wonderfully with some fruit. Let's just give that a good stir here. And then that is all we're doing with our glaze. We don't need this until after our fruit kebabs are good and cooked. Oh, that smells good. Can't go wrong with the smell of cinnamon. And we've got the perfect consistency for a drizzle over top our finished kebabs. So let's get those kebabs going now. Again, we're using strawberries, kiwi, and bananas. But now that we're preparing this fruit kebab, I'd love to hear from you guys. What combination of fruit would you guys put together on a kebab for the grill? I would definitely add some pineapple.
What about little clementine pieces?
That sounds fun.
Little halo, just peel apart a halo and just put a,
Yeah.
clementine or a little orange.
Yeah. Again, you're going to want something so blueberries probably isn't going to work all that well because it's just probably a little bit too small. You're going to really want something with some good consistency to it. Something that's going to, again, have that surface area for those grill marks. Something that's not going to fall apart. Again, I did have to make my banana slices a little bit smaller so they could at least touch the grill. But you got to be a little careful with those bananas and how ripe they might be and using them on the kebabs because those could kind of melt away if they're too ripe. And so these are a little bit on the greener side of things. So here, now we've got our colorful dessert fruit kebab. We're going to grill that. We're going to do about 2 to 4 minutes kind of on each side, probably maybe a total of 6 to 8 minutes, and then our fruit kebab will be done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off grilling these fruit kebabs, pass it back over to Kim, and then we'll come back with our full plated grilled dish.
Okay, so here we have the honey and cinnamon grilled fruit kebab recipe. We looked at the vegetable kebab. This one at the bottom, if you want to go back to the honey recipe or the fruit kebab recipe real briefly, Emily, at the bottom, the nutrition facts, we're looking at a fruit kebab. So the vegetable kebab was all veggies. There's no protein. We're eating it for the vegetables. The fruit kebab, it's low in calories, low in saturated fat. It's fruit. So there's very small amounts of carbohydrate. In here, we won't expect any protein. So we're going to expect carbs and sugar, of course. So it could be like a nice little dessert treat. So obviously we would want to pair this with part of a meal or a side of protein. So let's take a peek at our kebabs breakdown. The carbohydrates are all the non-starchy vegetables, basically. So very, very minimal amount of carbohydrates coming from the asparagus, onions, peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes. There's no protein. The little bit of fat in that recipe is from the olive oil. So we've just got lots of color, lots of vitamins, lots of minerals. What a neat way to add to a side of a chicken burger. And even so, our fruit kebab, the next breakdown is the carbohydrates are essentially the natural sugars from the strawberries, bananas, kiwi. We do have a little bit of added sugar from the honey. Like Tina said, you can pick your own kind of syrup of sorts that may boost the carbohydrates some, but it just depends on what you have in your cupboard too. We don't expect protein in this recipe, and there is no added fats. There's no vegetables. So this is just a nice little source of fruit dessert that's just found in a different way in the summertime on a grill. Kind of more refreshing. So the sides that you like to grill, we've offered a couple up. You can put whatever you like to do, typically for sides in the chat. What I'm going to just kind of bring to the table next is risks to the grilling, or I'm sorry, benefits to the grilling method. I'm sorry. The benefits to the grilling method. So having a grill, your hopes of using less oil, which means less added fats. The fat is dripping away because when fat is at higher temperatures, it is liquefied. So hopefully that is just kind of reducing the fat in that product. If there is any fat in that product, we're retaining some of the nutrients better in this type of method. Really, most anything can be grilled. It's very much a versatile method, as we have all spoke this hour. The dishes can be so full of color, which means there's so many vitamins and minerals in that meal, and the nutrients as well through the versatility of things that can be grilled. You don't lose out on carbohydrates. You don't lose out on protein, nor do you lose out on dietary fat. They're all important for a patient with diabetes, for a person with diabetes. So it's beneficial to use a method that really embraces all of those nutrients and color and vitamins and minerals. You can grill any part of a meal or the entire meal, as we've kind of offered this in this hour today. Now, there may be risks that come with the grilling method. And we mention here that the higher the temperature you grill at can charcoal the protein, the meat that you are choosing to grill. And what studies have shown over a long period of time, and we found over 30 years, habitually, that extended exposure of charcoaling your meat, that high temperature, basically burning your meat, can, in the consumption of that meat. So if you really like your meat well done and it is burned and you are consuming that meat, it can have some damage potentially in our body. It's just not a one-time someone overdid a steak and we consumed it and now there's potential for danger. It really comes down to, in these studies, that really it's the combination 30 years or longer. So it's a whole long-term consumption habitually of the consumption of the charcoaled meat. And actually there's some, we call it an aerosol, but there's in the air around that charcoaled meat and the grill, breathing that in, and the consumption of the charcoaled meat, there's exposure and risks to damage in our body. So we just proposed this just to really think about being safe with grilling. And so there's a few grilling tips on the next slide that we try to think about and suggest grilling your meat over indirect heat if it's possible, and it brings it and cooks it at the correct temperature. Because we, of course, want your meat cooked appropriately, whether it be beef, chicken, turkey, fish, pork, whatever you're doing. But indirect heat will allow that charcoal opportunity to be lesser of an opportunity. You want to turn your meat over frequently so it doesn't have as much opportunity to charcoal. And if it does, just trim that off. Trim that charcoal area off. And upon really looking at the risks of grilling, the recommendation would be to fruits and vegetables are naturally high in antioxidants, which kind of counteract indirectly the charcoaled meat consumption. There's a lot that goes on in our body, so it's very, very specific, but indirectly, the recommendation would be to have fruits and vegetables as a antioxidant protectant to that charcoaled food that we're consuming. The other option is to marinate whatever meat we're going to grill in a citrus-based marinade, providing those antioxidants as well. So nothing is really directly related, but it's a suggestion. So take those tips and be healthy when you grill. But know that the grilling method is great options for people with diabetes, and it provides us all the nutrients that we need. You can grill a whole meal or just sides, and now you have alternatives to that. I think we're at question and answer.
Right. So while you guys are coming up with any good questions that you might have in regards to either the recipes today or about grilling in general, we have our completed recipes here. And so we've got our grilled chicken burger with some beautiful grill marks. I'm very proud of those. And then, like I said, you can put it on top of whatever burger bun is your choice. And there are those lower carbohydrate type bun options with like the Carb Smart options. If you just want your kind of standard burger bun, you can wrap this in a lettuce wrap, a lettuce leaf, a cabbage leaf if you would like, or you can simply eat it as is, as I have it plated, with a dollop of guacamole as kind of like that dip. And again, it's feeling very moist in my chicken burger patty still. So that is very exciting because I think people get a little concerned if we're going to eat a chicken burger, if we're going to eat a turkey burger, is it going to be too dry and I'm not going to enjoy it? That's not the case with this recipe. We really added good moisture from onions, fresh herbs, and those sun-dried tomatoes. And then look at those beautiful grilled veggies. We've got beautiful grill marks on them. They're nice, and again, temperature-wise and time on the grill is really up to you based upon what you have your grill set and how tender you want your veggies to be. But they're not burnt. They just have that nice, beautiful grill mark. And again, the kind of just going along with the importance from our health and a long-term perspective that Kim just discussed. So we've got that, and then we've got dessert. We've got grilled dessert, you guys. We've got grilled fruit kebabs. We've got kiwi, strawberries, bananas. We've got beautiful grill marks on them. And then we've drizzled it with that honey cinnamon drizzle with a little lemon juice. And the grilling of that fruit just enhances that sweetness taste, as it is the perfect option for a dessert while getting those antioxidants because of the different colors and fiber from fruit, which we might typically not get from a traditional dessert option that we would have at like a potluck. So here we are, grilled recipes here. So we hope you enjoyed them, and we want to open it up to some question and answer. And if we don't have any questions today, then Kim can always review our services that we have for diabetes education and nutrition therapy services at Bronson. Any questions?
I'm curious about whether these recipes, obviously in an air fryer, I use an air fryer a lot. I'm by myself. I have a grill, never use it. My sons are avid grillers, but they don't live with me anymore. So I'm really struggling with the eating, not having cooks in the house. I'm not a person that loves to cook, so this is great. This is so simple. It feels really doable, and it's a whole new take on how I can eat. I find this super helpful, so I appreciate you doing this. I'm wondering about if it's raining, whatever, I see that you put a cast iron pan on your stove. What about using an air fryer or a George Foreman grill, for example? Um, would there be any modifications that would need to happen to do that?
I do not believe you would need to make any modifications at all for your grilled chicken burger and your veggies. I
Okay,
think those would turn out absolutely beautiful still in your air fryer. I've never done fruit in the air fryer, so I don't
right.
want to speak to that necessarily. I would imagine it will turn out just the same. But because I don't have any experience with that, I don't want to say for certain. Emily, Kim, maybe you guys have some experience with doing fruit in the air fryer. I mean, test it out, test it out with a few slices of strawberries and see what happens and then drizzle it. I would imagine it will be just fine and delicious too.
I don't have any experience, but I would say give it a try. Come back to another class, let us know. But yeah,
Right,
I think
right.
it's safe and it's nothing's wrong with that. And we'd love to have you have that fruit and gives you a very easy, like you say, uh it's a good way that, on your own you can explore that option. Eat healthfully too.
And I also wanted to say, like any of these recipes, like we don't even have to put them on skewers, right?
Right.
Like you can put these veggies in just a grill pan, same marinade, and cook them up for yourself too. So this is just a variation. And then if you do, this grill pan is really quite awesome. A cast
Yeah.
iron grill pan. It's got both sides, right? You can get the grill mark on one side, and then it's just a straight griddle on the other side. So
Yeah.
that's always a good option to have on hand. Of course, I know when it's hot, maybe you don't want to do that on the inside of the house. And so an air fryer seems like a really good alternative. And then I see the question in the chat about, does the kiwi ever fall off? My kiwi, I did wedges, right? Like typically if I'm going to eat kiwi for myself, I'm probably doing slices of kiwi, and those are probably going to be too thin for a kebab. This wedge of kiwi, and again, this wasn't a super ripe kiwi. It was nice and firm when I peeled it and put it on my kebab. That makes a big difference in how it's going to stand up to the grilling method. Very good. Very good. What other questions? It's a good combination, you guys. Strawberries, kiwi, banana. Delicious. All right, then with no other questions, Kim, why don't we talk about diabetes education and nutrition therapy at Bronson?
Okay, so like I said, I'm a certified diabetes educator. I'm also a registered dietitian. So both are referral based. So whether you have a Bronson doctor, provider or not, both of them require a provider that can write a referral. I'm located in South Haven, and I can do virtual or in-person visits. I provide diabetes education, which is comprehensive diabetes education, anything related, medications, blood sugars, monitoring, eyes, feet, you name it, food. I also just do specifically medical nutrition therapy education, which is just specific nutrition for diabetes, people with diabetes. So there's two different services here, and all you have to do is request a referral by your physician. If you need to have help with understanding, that process, you can reach back out. Tina or Emily, do they have your contact information, or how should they contact?
So, when you received those reminder emails in your inbox, that came from our community health email address. So just respond to any one of those emails if you ever need any additional information on this. The flyers were also attached to this morning's reminder email with some additional information. Any questions at all, email communityhealth@bronsonhg.org. That is a monitored email address. We will respond to you.
That sounds good.
Yes. All right, and then just to close us up, really, just some additional resources that we have at Bronson. If you are looking for maybe a new specialist for your heart health or your diabetes management, you can go to bronsonhealth.com or call the care advisors at the phone number listed on your screen. They can help you find a specialist in your area that is accepting new patients. And so if that is something that you are in need of, feel free to use those resources. If you're a MyChart user and you're ever like, oh, where do I find this? How do I do that? Bronson Health Answers is available at the email address and phone number listed on your screen. They would be happy to help you with any MyChart questions that you have. If you ever need any sort of billing assistance or payment plans with Bronson Patient Accounting is available again at that 1-800 number or local number 8:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And then the tool that I always like to remind people about is our estimator tool. So if you're ever referred for a service, X-ray, MRI, maybe a different type of lab work that you've never had done before, and you're like, how much is this going to cost me out of pocket? Call that phone number listed at the screen or request an estimate through your MyChart. You do not have to have an active MyChart in order to request the estimate, and it will give you, based upon the cost that's billed and your insurance coverage, it will give you an estimate of how much to expect out of pocket. So a very handy tool to know about. And so we will conclude there for today's session. Again, thank you guys so much for being with us in the month of June for our Diabetes Cooking Club, Learn the Skill to Grill. I hope you guys have taken away some form of at least a new idea for a recipe, a new trick to grilling, something that you can use to help manage your health and even better your diabetes control. Again, we thank you all and look forward to seeing you guys at an upcoming Diabetes Cooking Club. Thank you.